I have to just like set out and compliment you guys, because one of my favorite things as a viewer to watch is just genuine human struggle and relatable situations between people. And one of the things that I found most effective about Battlestar was that these are just people trying to figure out what it is that they're doing in this very new situation. We don't have a planet to live on anymore. We're just a fleet kind of, aimlessly searching for some ideal all based on hope. And when there was a moment towards the end where they say, okay, well, the ship is not going to be something that we look at anymore. We need to establish rules and guidelines for citizens to follow. Was that something that you guys were nervous about? Like introducing those concepts and what happens to all these people after?
I think there was always an interest in the show about, this sort of post-apocalyptic world where when everything you had counted on and everything that you felt was stable and solid was suddenly taken away from you. And what would you try to hang on to? What were the elements of your culture that you would try to retain in those circumstances? And all the way through the show, right up until the end, the feeling was, well, let's take away more. Let's make it harder. Let's call this into question. Let's really put you into places where you said, okay, the world is over, but we're going to hang on to this. Now let's take this away from you and see where you go from there. And so at the very end, it was important to me in the finale that as they faced the moment when the Galactica herself was going to be gone and the world that they knew was going to be over, they were still making plans for Gated to be Admiral of the Fleet and Romo to be the President. They were still, no matter how many survivors there were.
For Trisha and Grace to make out.
Yes. Is that on as a DVD? DVD extra?
Sorry.
Yes, put your orders in now.
I didn't realize I said that out loud.
But you talk about the Galactic actually dying. I thought those scenes were so powerful. With anytime you saw Adama in the flight suit, I was in. By the way, anytime, right? But that did make me wonder, because all the while the prophecy of the dying leader leading them to Earth, there was a moment where I watched the finale and I wondered if the dying leader wasn't the Galactica itself. Was that something you guys ever considered, or was it always meant to be Rosalind?
I always thought it was Rosalind.
Yeah.
I never varied from that. But I thought and encouraged that there were alternate theories, that there were ways you could read it where it was possibly Adama, or possibly it was Starbuck, and possibly it was Galactica itself. I mean, those were conscious things that we talked about in the writers' room, several times.
It is interesting just because if you study religion at all, there's always the notion of prophets and people that are placed in charge of leading a people, that they themselves aren't able to go to the promised land. Whether it was Moses or Abraham, just the people that are meant to lead that can't actually be a part of the delivery themselves.
Well, that was initially, and for quite a while, the thinking on Laura was that she was not going to make it to the promised land. And I thought, when I talked to Mary in the first conversation, I said, you're going to be Moses and you're not going to make it to Earth. You'll die just before they get there. And that was always sort of part of the concept. And as we got towards the end, I just sort of thought that I didn't want that to be the end.
And it was great, because I didn't know that until I read the script, because the last conversation we had about it, she didn't make it. And in the last it became 4 hours, but in Ron Morris speak, it was a 2-hour script. She did, and died in this very elegant sort of way at the very last moment. And I thought it was a way of sort of abiding by the original concept and yet giving the audience something to feel connected to. You just wanted her to get there. You wanted her to get there. It's what the audience wanted.
Yeah.